Hey, great minds, hope you're doing awesome today. I'm sure you enjoyed that lovely groove. Well, I must tell you that an awesome and a great groove will always sound awesome and retain its awesomeness even when the drums and the percussions are not there. On BGM9, I'll be teaching you a lot about groove, and I'll be teaching you how to sound percussive as a bass player. I'll also be teaching you how to develop a great tone as a bass player. I'll be teaching you how to develop speed and intensity and also accuracy with your notes. So I would love you to join me on the online professional bass guitar mentorship program, the volume 9. It's going to be an awesome time starting on the 25th of June and rounding off on the 20th of July. It's going to be on WhatsApp, and it's just 5,000 naira. I mean 5,000 naira only. That's so affordable, and I am certain that it's going to be an amazing time and you won't remain the bass player you've always been. So join me, you have the details on your screen, and let's go on an amazing ride on the bass. See you there. Kaboom! Hey, great minds, hope you're doing awesome today. I'm sure you enjoyed that lovely groove. Well, I must tell you that an awesome and a great groove will always sound awesome and retain its awesomeness even when the drums and the percussions are not there. On BGM9, I'll be teaching you a lot about groove, and I'll be teaching you how to sound percussive as a bass player. I'll also be teaching you how to develop a great tone as a bass player. I'll be teaching you how to develop speed and intensity and also accuracy with your notes. So I would love you to join me on the online professional bass guitar mentorship program, the volume 9. It's going to be an awesome time starting on the 25th of June and rounding off on the 20th of July. It's going to be on WhatsApp, and it's just 5,000 naira. I mean 5,000 naira only. That's so affordable, and I am certain that it's going to be an amazing time and you won't remain the bass player you've always been. So join me, you have the details on your screen, and let's go on an amazing ride on the bass. See you there. Kaboom! I am so glad to be in front of your face this morning, and it does me so much joy to be here today and to smile at you, to look at you, and also to know that you are doing fine. Well, today is going to be an interactive session, and that's why I have myself holding my phone right here. And I also have another angle of the camera where you can actually see what I am playing. You can actually see the details so that it doesn't look like magic to you, or it doesn't feel like magic, or it doesn't feel like it doesn't tally, but it tallies. So you're going to be seeing everything this morning. Just to be sure you can hear me, I'm asking again. Can you hear me? All right, I got the feedback. You can hear me. So just before we start, once again, I want you to share this live stream to as many bass players as you know. Just hit the share button. If you belong to bass guitar groups, music groups, I believe this live stream won't just benefit musicians alone, or sorry, wouldn't just benefit bass players alone. Even those who are not bass players will benefit from this live stream. So please share to as many people as you can, and you'll be doing just fine to do that. Just before we kick off, okay, we are kicking off already, not just before we kick off. We're kicking off right away with our lecture for today, and that is the reasons why your bass guitar lines are not adding up. The reasons why your bass guitar lines are not adding up. Well, a lot of us right now are burdened by the happenings around Nigeria, and I, for one, am seriously burdened. Everyone I can see, almost everyone is looking for an opportunity to escape a plan B. And, we all want to do well. We have great plans for our future. We have desires of our future. And, recently I was talking with someone, and the person, I was talking about my bass guitar career, and the person asked, how bass guitar take help this country, I beg? Why you they advertise? On a good day, I should take offense and say, what is this guy even saying? Kilo Sobai, why are you talking like this? Why should you tell me how would my bass guitar career help Nigeria? And, for a second, I had to rethink it, and I told him, I said, in life, everybody has an opportunity to master an art. That art you master gives you the privilege of influence. For example, I play the bass guitar, I work on the bass guitar every day, I try to be better. Now, in the process of mastery or gaining mastery, it increases my sphere of influence. There are so many music listeners, so many music lovers, that on a good day, if I had gone to them as an electrical engineer, because I studied electrical engineering in school, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria and Federal Polytechnic Bida, I probably would not be able to capture their hearts to probably drive in some truth. But as a bass player, music is a universal language. Music speaks to basically every single person on earth. There is hardly a person who doesn't listen to music. The babies listen to the lullabies and sleep off. The people who are mentally down or insane on the streets, they listen to music and you see some of them dance. The blind hears music and dances. Even the deaf feels the vibration of music. So naturally speaking, or by conclusion, I can tell you that music is a language that we can use to create harmony in our society. Now, achieving mastery now gives you another edge, because when you achieve mastery, what you simply do is you keep people dumbfounded. They are like, wow, oh boy, now human being, they play bass like that. The thing shocked me. Oh, see, as the guy, they play bass. I have a friend, D-Bass, amazing bass player. Back then, I had D-Bass use the Coca-Cola bottle, to play the bass. And the news was all over the country. Everybody heard it. That D-Bass, oh boy, that guy, they play, he used the Coca-Cola bottle to play the bass. And by doing that, what he has done is he did something exceptional that made it easy for people to identify with him, which now makes it easy for him to drive in the message of harmony. So when we talk about nation building and music or bass playing, it tallies perfectly. You can't separate it though. For every tool you have to fulfill the purpose of nation building, if you don't enter into mastery in it, you are basically limiting yourself. For every tool you have, if you don't enter into mastery, you are basically limiting yourself. And by so doing, you are making yourself a burden to the earth. You're making yourself a burden to the world. So whatever it is you do, one of your topmost priority or your topmost priority is to make sure that you gain mastery. Whatever it is, be it fashion, be it, absolutely anything you do, your topmost priority should be to gain mastery. So in gaining mastery, you have to update yourself, upgrade yourself. You have to go through lots of trainings. You have to take advantage of resources you have. YouTube is there. I started off my journey on YouTube. There are several other places. Then there are resources that are hid in people. Those people we call mentors and role models. But how much have we taken advantage of these resources? You don't just sit down and wait for things to happen. It's important that you happen to things. So how much of a sacrifice have you made in the last 1 year, in the last 6 months to get to where you desire and you ought to be? Maybe this will drive me to telling you my story. I started off my bass guitar career in 2003, December 26, exactly 5:30 p.m. in my church. Exactly 5:30 p.m. I can remember everything that I went through. I can remember every step I took. I can remember all what transpired in my journey. Before I made the decision, because I actually picked up the bass guitar in church that evening service, and I told God that, God, with this instrument, I want to represent your sounds in heaven, the archives of your sounds in heaven. I want to bring them forth here on earth. And that was a covenant I had with God. And God saw me through up until now. But before then, there was a story. I was working as a volunteer staff in a cyber cafe. I was not being paid anything. The cyber cafe just opened back then in Bida, Niger State. If you know Bida, Niger State, you're an awesome person, because it's even difficult to locate Bida on the map. On the Nigerian map, it's so difficult to locate Bida, but that's where I started off my journey. Amazing, peaceful place. There was so much harmony in our living and our existence in Bida. So I started off, like I said, in a cyber cafe. I was working in a cyber cafe as a den. And, a lot was going on back then. I was working in a cyber cafe. Okay, sorry, I just want to be sure you're hearing me again. That's why I went off. So sorry. And, we would check stuff, we would download videos, and, we're downloading videos on virtually everything. I am my friend. I have this childhood friend, Kyle Diakomolafe. So we would download several videos, and we just wanted to explore. Young guys, we wanted to explore. And so across the line, I remember that, there was this bass player, Abraham Laboriel. Amazing bass player that was playing rock and only, he played quite a lot of stuff. He was one that played. I'm sure you remember that. That's just off the radar. He played that amazing solo, and I remembered, if actually Laboriel is in the States, then there should be some of his resources online. So, as I was searching, I was basically downloading materials for keyboard players. I wasn't being paid. So I was downloading materials and selling, put them on CD and tell them, okay, pay for the CD alone and all of that. So I remember that I can search for Laboriel. So I searched and I saw a lot of his stuff, a lot of his resources, and I kept watching. I had this Koinonia album where his album actually, Koinonia with Alex Acuna and quite of other a number of other musicians that played together. And I will watch and watch and watch. Some of them were audios with thumbnails that makes it easy for you to upload on YouTube. And as I kept watching, downloading, I now stumbled upon someone amazing. It shocked me when I saw his materials. I was like, oh my God. And guess who that was? If you know who that was, kindly type the name of the person. I want this to be very interactive. If you know who that bass player was, the bass player I encountered online, kindly type the name of that bass player. Type the name. I want to see you. I want to see your message. You know the bass player I'm talking about. Yes. Mr. Akinola, Mr. Seriki, amazing guitarist too, back then in Bida. So yes, we would always, well, I'll tell you the bass player if you're not online. That was Victor Wooten. Put your hands together where you are for Victor Wooten. Victor Wooten was an irumole. I mean, you would hear him play and you would think it was several bass players playing at the same time. I mean, I learned quite a lot. I learned the separation technique. I learned the tapping technique. I learned so much. So much, from Victor Wooten. And I was like, whenever I listened to him, it always blew my mind. It always blew my mind. It sounded like 10, 15 bass players playing at the same time. I was like, my God, what is this? And somehow, that moment was both a discouraging moment for me and also an encouraging moment for me. So I asked myself, which one of the challenges would I face? Is it the challenge to be discouraged or the challenge to be encouraged? And I chose one. I said, no way, this is going to encourage me to the top. And I kept playing and playing. I listened to the Amazing Grace solo, and I told myself, okay, I want to create a bass solo that sounds exactly like Amazing Grace. And I created Baba Ye, Jackie Joba Rede. I would have played it for you now, but we're out of time and we have a lot to do. So I created that solo, and I was so proud of that solo that anywhere I went to, I'll play that solo. Anywhere I went to, I'll play that solo. I was always eager to play it. So I somehow practically started as a solo bass player. Even though at some point I had to work on my groove, I had to unlearn and relearn, which is what we'll be doing today. We'll be unlearning some things, we'll be relearning some things, and we'll be learning some things. So I had to unlearn at some point because I was so filled with so much banter about separation, so would I call it banter, so much about solos, so much about chords. I had so much I learned how to do on chords. I learned so much about chords, learned so much about practically soloing, but I had basically no foundation about bass lines. So along the line, I had to unlearn. And I had to learn. So what I had to unlearn was practically, I had to unlearn a mindset that when you pick the bass, all you do is just to play solos. And I had to learn that you can actually play bass lines. So I had to learn that you can actually play bass lines and still sound amazing. Sound really, really great and amazing at the same time. And that's why I'm bringing forth this class to also help you. For some, I'm reminding you. For some, you'll be learning some of these things for the first time. And for others, this might not be useful. I mean, practically, I have to tell the truth. For some others, this might not be useful, but I'll just urge you to open up your minds today because we're going to be on a ride. And just before that, I want to let you know that BGM 9 is kicking off in kicking off basically in 10 days time. 11 days time on the 25th of June, and it's going to be rounding off on the 20th of July. If you haven't subscribed, there's a WhatsApp number on the Facebook live stream. Just kindly send a message on the WhatsApp number. It's very, very affordable. It's just 5,000 naira for a total of 25 days of professional bass guitar mentorship. I'll be talking about a lot, even though they are highlighted in just 3 topics, and that's building an amazing tone, developing speed and accuracy, and also percussive bass, the volume 2 of percussive bass, but I will be resharing volume 1. So if you want to sign up or you want to subscribe, follow the WhatsApp number you have on the caption of the live video on Facebook, and you'll be doing so well for yourself. Thank you once again for joining in. And today, basically, we're going to be opening up. I sounded like a Fulani man. Opening. We're going to be opening up, building bass lines. And we're under the caption of reasons why your bass guitar lines aren't adding up. I've had quite a lot of people chat me up. And one of the things they say is, sir, I'm playing, but I'm not seeing any difference. I'm practicing, but I'm not finding any difference in my play. It's like I'm practically not improving. I don't know what to do. In fact, some have even told me I want to stop playing bass. And with my church mind, I try to tell them, see, better don't discourage yourself. Then another mind, not Mock's mind, and not evil mind, another mind tells me what really motivates these people. What's your motivating factor? Is your motivating factor how much you will make as a bass player, or how much impact or influence the instrument gives you the opportunity to make? For me, I love to play. I love to mentor. I have quite a number of guitars here that I bought just as a result, just because of the passion I have. So I asked them, what motivates you? What motivates you? Is it that you just want to play for money? Is it that you just want to play because you have a girlfriend in the audience that is always listening to you? Or you want to wow your wife every now and then? Is that the reason why you want to play, or because you love to play? I love to play. And I grew to understand that playing gives me an opportunity and a platform to influence and impact my world. I do so many other things, but I love to play the bass guitar. I don't think I have love for any of the other things I do as much as I have love for the bass guitar and music. So what motivates you? If you don't have something to hold on to, if you don't have a word concerning your motivations, if you don't have a passion, at the end of the day, one bass player will just play and you'll be swept off your feet. I've been in events where this is funny, Sha. I've attended some events where immediately I entered the hall and the bass player identified that Bazzik is in the hall. He just started playing, overplaying, and at the end of the day, he played nonsense. If I was at an event where his string got caught because of, he wanted to play with so much intensity because another bass player was around, and at the end of the day, he ended up messing up himself. So the thing is, what motivates you first? Then also, how much passion do you have? Then do you have enough fuel to keep up and on your journey? Because what you call fuel is not just about your practice and rehearsals, but sometimes you need an external factor like a mentor who is still in the game, a mentor who is still playing and who is passionate about playing.
and who doesn't just play, but somebody who is passionate about being an intelligent bass player. I don't need to mention that there are several bass players. All over the world, there are several bass players. And there are several people who are mentors, who are teaching other people how to play. But the truth is, it's not just about being a bass player, but about being an intelligent bass player. I need to be sure that we can hear and we are following. So if you're here and you're following, just type, I am following, I am following. Just type, I am following, I am following. If you are not enjoying this, type, I am not enjoying this. If you are enjoying this, tell me you are enjoying this, and I would love to give you some feedback. Yes, so, yes, that is that for now. So first of all, what is a bass guitar line? A bass guitar line, is simply what the bass guitar plays on a band. The bass is or has been or was primarily created to play the bass guitar line. That's the sound, the notes of your groove, or however you call it. So that's the function of a bass line, to play the groove and to keep that groove consistent. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the characteristics of a bass line is consistency. Consistency. And I think that's the major characteristics. There are other things that I'm going to be mentioning, but the beauty of a bass line is in its consistency. Even if some of the other characteristics are missing, somehow isolating the bass line would probably still make 3% or 5% or 10% sense. So the beauty of a bass line, like I said, is in its consistency. And also we need to understand that the beauty of a bass line is basically when it is removed from the groove. When you separate it as an entity. Now, it will be easy for producers to do this, to actually separate your bass line. It's just like when you go to the studio, you play record bass, then they mute every other instrument and they listen to the bass guitar alone. Now, the beauty of the bass line is that when it is isolated, it still makes sense. So a lot of people try to build bass lines, and practically after they play, it is completely off. I do that a couple of times. Even when it's not in the studio, I try to find a way to use my internal hearing to isolate the bass line from the groove. And I get to ask myself, okay, as an entity on its own, does it go through the transparency test? Now, transparency test, I'm going to explain that. That's what I call it. That's the definition I chose to give to it. I call it a transparency test because basically a transparency test basically tests to see through something. Just like they tell you they are doing it Transparency International or something. They are testing to see through people to know their level of corruption or whether there is no corruption there. So a transparency test simply means you isolate your bass line and you look through the qualities of a bass line to see if it follows those qualities. So you don't just play bass lines because you want to play. The idea is for you to be a calculated bass player. And that's why I use the word add up. Reasons why your bass guitar lines don't add up. Your bass guitar lines should be so calculated that you can easily tell why you played what you played. And that's one of the things that I made priority on BGM. You should be able to tell why you played what you played. And that's the level of being an intelligent bass player. When I say an intelligent bass player, I'm not just talking about someone who knows how to read book. I'm not just talking about someone who knows how to sight read. I don't sight read, even though I've started classes, but I don't sight read yet professionally. But an intelligent bass player is a bass player that is calculated. You know why you play intelligent bass player. So when I say reasons why your bass guitar lines don't add up, that add up, put it in apostrophe. I'm talking about being calculated. You should be able to play bass the way you calculate mathematics. You should be able to play bass the same way an architect draws the plan and the structure of the building, and the civil engineers or the builders representing. You should be able to draw out your bass lines and what you're about to play, or what you are playing, or what you will play, or what you have played, and actually put it on the bass. And now there are guiding principles. The beauty of it is it's impossible for you to do that and be off the hook, because if you're doing that, you are now doing it with the mindset of following something. You're following some principles. You're following some principles to find out if your baseline works with those principles. So I talked about the transparency test. I might not do so much of playing. If you want to see where I played bass lines and all of that, you can type it. I'll send you links. But I might not do so much of playing, even though I'll play today. But there are areas, like I said, or resources, even though they are part of the music, but there are also resources that you would actually use to test and see that your bass lines are adding up. I'm going to be revealing a couple of them today, even though not all of them, but I'll reveal a couple of them. The first and foremost is what we call rhythm. If you're there, you can type rhythm. I want to be sure you're here with me. Type rhythm. Type rhythm. If you're there with me, type rhythm. I really want to see you type. Type rhythm. If you're here with me, type rhythm. So that's the first. And one thing I will say about that first and foremost is that our heart beats in rhythm. So if you are alive, there is no reason why your bass line shouldn't be alive. There is no reason. If you are alive and you have a heartbeat, there is no reason why your bass line should lack a heartbeat. And that your heartbeat is what we call pulse. Sometimes they check. When someone slumps or something, they check for the pulse. They check the heartbeat. They use the stethoscope. Yes, stethoscope. I wanted to say stethoscope. Stethoscope. No, they use the stethoscope to check. They check the heart if there's a pulse. So a pulse is a component or a part of your rhythm. For example, if I play this, if I play now, if you hear that, you discover that in between the notes, there are some spaces. There are some spaces that can actually be removed, that falls within the groove or the meter. You can actually identify spots, and those spots can actually be can be isolated or can be removed. I'm not saying you remove it from the baseline. Of course, you cannot remove from the pulse in your heart. But what I'm saying is you are identifying them and you are trying to make sure that it falls, that whatever you're playing falls within the pulse and the rhythm. A great mentor of mine, Bright Gain, he said, a pulseless bassist is a dead bassist. Not the human itself, but, or let me put it this way, a pulseless bass line is a dead bass line. So you are identifying the pulses and you're taking advantage of the pulses in that song, in that groove, in that time signature, and you're using those pulses to form your bass line. Now, let me be practical. Even though I don't have a drum set here, but I'll be practical about this. For example, you have a beat that goes do do ke do ke do do ke do ke do do ke do ke do do ke. Now you're going to tell me if it sounds good. I'll play the first one. Do do ke do ke do do ke do ke, do, ke, do, ke, do, ke, do, ke. Now you see that what I'm playing doesn't make any sense because it's not following even the rhythm I am playing with my mouth. It's not following it. It's just, I'm just there. I'm just there somewhere around. And I discovered a lot of bass players try to form bass lines. And these bass lines are completely out of rhythm. One of the greatest ways to stay in rhythm is to work with your drummer. I say this a lot. Most times, my greatest and best friend on a band is the drummer. And my worst enemy, not enemy as per say I dey fight you, but my worst enemy is also the drummer. Because if I am playing, most of the time, if you watch me play at certain events or church programs or all of that, you will discover that I am always looking at the drummer because I have to lock up with the drummer. For example, the drummer is playing that same groove, and I go. Do ke do ke do ke do ke do ke do ke do ke. So what I'm simply doing is I'm trying to mimic at least I should be able to mimic 95% of what the drummer is playing. I should be able to mimic it. I should be able to pick. I'm not saying I remain on one note, but as the structure continues, we'll come to structure. As the chord progression continues, I should be able to follow, the groove. What is the drummer playing? What's his rhythm? What's his rhythmic structure? What is the pattern of his bass drum with respect to the snare drum? That's why the basic part of playing a slap line, when I did a class on slap bass, when we had do, ke, do, ke. So I tried to mimic. So the basic part, I represented exactly what the drummer is playing as the elementary or the beginning part of my bass line if I'm slapping. Even though I added some ajasha or some ghost notes, but so what I did simply was to try to mimic what the drummer is playing. So that's rhythm. I'm going to be explaining a lot about this on BGM 9. So like I said, if you want to subscribe, there's a phone number at the caption of this live video on Facebook. Copy that number and send a WhatsApp message. So that's rhythm. Rhythm. So like I said, a lot of bass players make this mistake and they form bass lines that are practically out of rhythm. There is a rhythmical error in the formation of their bass line. And it causes big problems for the band when the bassist can't represent what the drummer is playing. When the bassist can't lock up with the drummer, it becomes a huge problem. That is one. Number two, we'll be talking about structure. Basically, structure. And in talking about structure, I'm basically talking about how you arrange your notes. How you arrange your notes. And, that has a lot to do with chords. Chords. How you arrange your chords. And now how the bass player represents those chords on the bass. There's what we call inversions. We have implications. We have quite a lot of ways to approach. For example, someone plays a C major triad. A C major triad, the components of a C major triad is your first, your third, and your fifth. Okay, let's even assume a C major seventh. So that's your first, your third, your fifth, and your seventh. Now, if I want to play my bass line at that point, I'll get to ask the pianist first, okay, what are you representing as your bass note? That's if I have an opportunity to ask him before our set, or before the band plays, and asking what is your bass note or what is your preferred bass note. Most likely, if I have bass line or a chord like that, what would go as my bass line or as the principal note of that chord at that point will be my one. It will be my one. So you need to understand that as your bass lines go, so also it should follow the chord progression. For example, I have a suspended fourth. Suspended fourth is, for example, if you're playing using tonic software, you have your do, fa, sol, do, fa, sol. And at that point, you are confused. Okay, which of the notes do I use? You can simply ask your keyboardist or your keyboard player, what note are you playing on your left hand? Or alternatively, I pick one of the notes, the dominant notes that's from my triad. I have do, mi, sol, and on the components of the suspended fourth, I have do, fa, sol. I can either pick do, and I can choose to pick sol, but now I'll be playing it on a deeper octave. On a deeper octave. That's part of what I call structure, where you're also playing matters. It matters a lot. So when you're dealing with your structure, you need to understand chord progressions. And one of the ways to work on chord progressions is to practically listen to music, listen to hits, basically gospel hits, because if you do Afro hip hop, it might not give you as much dexterity as you're looking for, because Afro hip hop basically sometimes just rests around a couple of progressions and comes back. Apart from now that people are doing live arrange for songs, and you know, people are doing a lot of trying to make it dynamic. But if you want to learn the notes that can actually back those chords, listen more often. Listen, don't just go theoretically, but listen to what people are doing. Listen to what people play currently. Okay, how are they approaching this currently? Oh, what is the you know, there are a couple of bands to listen to this. You can listen to the strange arrangements that we have online. It's online, it's everywhere, basically everywhere. So there are lots. You can listen to Tim Godfrey. He has quite a lot of amazing arrangements done by SMJ, and you know, a lot. There's quite a lot that you can learn and pick from other people. So when you're dealing with structure, like I said, listen, don't stop listening. Something about listening, at a time in my life, there were times there were moments I actually listened to one song for 6 months. I remember very well. I would listen to Kim Burrell, pick one track, and I keep listening to that track. For 6 months, I am on that track. I keep at it. I keep listening until it sings. So listen very often. Then finally, on structure, learn to use the components of the chords to form your bass line. Learn to use the components of the chord. Learn to use chord tones. Learn to use the structure. That's, you can do inversions of your chord. For example, practically, I've done, for example, several times now. Practically, if I have something like this, I have, okay, let me play on C major and major 7. Let me play my C major 7th, and my progression is this, or my chord is this. This is more like I'm just picking some of the notes, selective picking. I can actually play it fully, even though it's on an inversion. So I'm implicating it. Yes, that was the word. I was looking for the word, implication. So implication simply means you just pick out a couple of notes on your chord if you can't play all of them. Since you cannot even just, if you're playing the bass line, you probably can't play all and see you're sounding a bass line, but you can actually pick some notes that will implicate the other notes. You know what implication means now? You're trying to put somebody in trouble, but now you're not putting anyone in trouble. You're implicating, you're picking the components and say, okay, let me leave out this component. Let me leave out this element, component element, and let me make use of just these three. So on our C major 7, we actually have this. So we have do, sol, ti, mi, an inversion anyway. So if I'm having someone strumming this, so I could play a groove as so basically I just picked the elements and I try to form a groove out of the elements. So most times your first go-to when playing a bass line, your first go-to is the components of the chords. And still, the idea or the concept of inversion gives me an edge again. So on inversion, if I'm inverting it, I can actually play so what I simply did here was I did an inversion. Instead of do, mi, so, I now started from the deeper octave of my fifth, which is my so. So there are several ways to build your bass line in a way that it will add up. Don't just, I know a couple of people that just lift bass lines. They just practically lift what another person has played and they try to play it exactly that same way on another song, not knowing that, forgetting that first of all, it has to fulfill the rhythmic structure of the groove you are importing that particular bass line from. It has to fulfill the rhythmic structure of the groove you are putting it on. Then it also has to fulfill the structure of the chords. I can't have a bass line with my C major 7th and I start from my flat 5. You know, I mean, look at it now. My C major 7th is this. By implication, I will skip my 5th. Then I want to play the groove. The groove is basically this. And I go. You know, somehow it creates some sense of discord, except there's a reharmonization, from the piano player. If there's a reharmonization, it might work perfectly. But if there's no reharmonization, and you are doing this, and you now make the mistake of doing it on a high octave, and you are calling it a bass line, let me tell you what you are doing. You are subtracting from the music. Your bass line is not adding up. And you know you have to lock up. You have to lock up with both the drummer as priority, then next, your piano player. Your piano player, you must lock up with the chords. You can't be in the north and assume you are in the east. No. Wherever you are, you must lock up completely with your drummer. Completely. And you must lock up completely with your piano player. So work on the structure of your chords and how you relate the chords on your bass line. Another thing I want to say in terms of structure, even though this has to do with positioning, is when you play bass lines, be careful not to bring your bass line to this level. Be careful not to bring your bass line to that point. Bringing your bass line to that point simply means you are saying, I am now the soloist. There's an exception to this, but I'll still talk about that. But bringing your bass line and playing your entire bass line at this point now turns you to the solo player, and you wouldn't want to divide your band. So as much as possible, bear in mind that whatever bass line you're playing, be as deep as possible. Now, I don't mean be as loud as possible or be as moody or muddy as possible, but bring your bass lines to deep points. And you go. So make your bass lines as deep as possible. You need to understand that there are certain registers or positions of the bass, and there are functions for these registers. I'll be breaking some of these things on BGM9. So subscribe. I'll do a lot. I will explain the functions of different registers of the bass to you, the positioning, the things that these areas are meant for. Like I said, the goal is to be an intelligent bass player. Your bass playing should be so nice and so well calculated that when people listen to it, they can write a story about it. Once upon a time, in the deep waters of Kabusa, there were amazing sounds that made a lot of sense. But as the days went by, as the situations changed, the situations at the courts, as the situations changed, gradually, the deep waters got brighter and light began to shine. Now that light began to shine is when you get here and you are soloing, amazingly on those high frequencies, and light began to shine, and suddenly all the people came out to celebrate. All the people came out, the chords. Those are the chords. What I'm trying to tell you is your bass line should be well calculated that you can write a story with your bass line and people will understand what you are talking about. I need to know if you are following. If you are following, say I hear. Type I hear. Type I hear. If you are following, type I hear. I want you to type it, I hear. If you don't type, I won't continue. We'll end the class here now. If you're following, type I hear you. I hear you. Your bass lines should be so organized that people can write a story of your bass line. They can write a story. So you need to understand that every point of your bass has a function. Right from here. I'm not talking about the parts of the bass. I'm talking about from where you have strings. Because, for example, now I can come down here and create something. So don't look at the bass as a limited instrument. Some of us look at the bass as a disadvantage. I've met a lot of people that tell you, I don't want to play bass. The bass is just there, just playing. The person is just moving his head. I want to play. I even know a couple of bass players who switch to saxophone because they want to be at the forefront. But the problem they had is that they didn't understand that this bass has different stories to tell. They didn't understand. They didn't look beyond the normal everyday thing. They now switch, thinking, okay, I can't play that instrument. Everybody is just there, it's just at the back. But I tell you, there are amazing bass players who have made use of the bass in amazing ways. Bright Gain, amazing Mentor, D-Bass, Bassmatics, Coco Bass, Malam T-Bass. Please, I'm sorry if I don't remember now. This is spontaneous. If I don't mention your name, you know. If you're an amazing bass player, you know in Nigeria, you know yourself. So if I don't mention your name, Enoch Bass, there are a couple of people. I just can't remember some of them now. Pardon me if I didn't mention your name, please. You are amazing. I love you with all my heart. I didn't mention your name. So they have proven to you and they've proven to all of us that it is possible to sound amazing as a bass player. So Like I said, you need to understand the essence of all these things. It's not just there. It's not just there. You don't understand. It's not just there for decoration. It's not there for decoration. That you have a 6-string bass. It's not just there for decoration. Another mistake people make is that when they've been playing the 4-string bass for a long time and they switch to a 5 or a 6, it becomes a huge terror to them. The bass now becomes a terrorist to them, practically. So because the 4-string bass just has 4 strings, they now assume to pick the last 4 on the 6-string bass, and they now switch all their entire bass playing to from the 4th. Sorry, I added that extra. So they now switch left all the deeper notes and now started playing on the 4 strings below, thereby giving the sound engineer problem. To the extent that the sound engineer thought the cone of his speaker has blown out. Because he was wondering, but why you play bass? This guy, they play bass. But I know they hear him. The sound engineer goes to the speaker again to check his cone. Abi this cone don't blow ni. Kilo day. Not knowing that the guy playing the bass is playing on a 6 strings, and he doesn't know that when you play on a 6 strings, the strings that were added from what was our conventional or regular 4 strings is the tiniest string and the deepest string. So at the end of the day, we have a bass player that becomes a terrorist. Apart from the 6 strings being a terrorist to him, he now becomes a terrorist to the sound engineer. And because of that, frequencies begin to clash. You are clashing with the snare drum, you are clashing with the talking drum, you are clashing with the omele, you are clashing with the saxophone, you are clashing most especially with the guitarist, because this tiniest string happens to be his own deepest string. So sometimes when you are playing, you are overshadowing even his own deepest string, that his own deepest string cannot be heard. So you need to understand structure and the essence of positioning. Where you are playing matters. Where you are playing on your bass matters. If you are here, if you are with me, tell me I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Just say I hear you if you're with me. If you're following, say I hear you. And you can also do well to share this video to as many bass players as you know. Share with them. It's an amazing ride this morning, and I'm so glad. So, like I said, structure, positioning, and finally color. that part makes me happy. You add color to your bass line. In a house, if the house is not painted, it looks bare. But when a house is painted, it gives color. It looks beautiful. So also your bass lines. When your bass lines lack color, it becomes dumb and dull. And I tell you, one of the easiest bass lines to lack color is reggae. Because sometimes you can be so locked out if you have not worked on rhythm and structure and positioning, and you are repeating that reggae bass line, and you don't have color, you are finished. Your bass guitar line is finished, practically finished. So you need color, and color is broken into 2 aspects. The first one is your tone, and the second thing is your dynamic approach. I'm not going to talk about tone because that's one of the main topics on BGM 9, developing a great tone. I'm going to be talking extensively about that, and I will practically teach you how to get a great tone out of your bass playing. Some people can play. They can run around the bass like someone that Boko Haram is chasing. They can run from east to west, from north to south. But I tell you, by the time you put their bass line through the transparency test, you will see that it lacks color. They play at the wrong sides of the bass. They play with the wrong fingering pattern. And also, they play without essence and presence. Number one, when you're talking about tone, it has to do with your mind, the mind of the player. Or let me say, number one has to do with your physical playing. That means you playing the bass, actually. And number two has to do with your mind. So number one, you have to work on the way you strike your notes. The intensity with which you strike your notes. The softness with which you strike your notes. And also the fingerings you make use of. All this determines the tone that comes out of your bass playing. Some people say it takes a long time to build tone. I agree with you, but 50%. It doesn't just take a long time of playing to build a great tone. It also takes intentionality. If there's any word like that, please correct me. It takes intentionality to build a great tone. You have to be intentional about it. It's not just that you played for long. Some people say it's not how old, it's not how long, but how well. Because I know of people, elderly people who are 70, 80, yes, they have experiences, but their level of excellence is limited. So even when they try to pass on their experiences, the people who are receiving those information they are passing on get it in a very, very, there's a word for it, in a very mediocre way, to the extent that it doesn't make any impact, or it makes just little impact. So that you have been playing bass for long. I know people have been playing bass longer than I have been playing. A lot longer. I will just be 18 years this year as a bass player. I know people who have been playing for 30 years, for 25 years. But if you listen to their tone, it's still terrible. So it's not just that I don't they play. Some people say the guy get grip. And they forget to ask that guy will get grip. Hey, what thing you do will give you grip. So it's not just that you've been playing for long, but that you are applying the right principles to achieve the necessary results. That's one. Number two, your mind. You need to understand the fact that music is very dynamic. For example, let me do this practically. And I want to play a worship song or a worship solo. And I go this way. And I'm actually supposed to start the song. Let's assume I'm to start the song. And I play like this. I am passing the wrong message. So I'm destroying the color of the song completely. For example, again, let me do this. I want to start the song now. Now you can see I am playing with emotion. So like I said, the first one is your physical approach. The second one is your mind, the emotions with which you play. And a lot affects this. The state of your mind, even as a human, affects this. If you are going through challenges physically, I tell you, it will affect your tone. If you are going through emotional challenges, it will affect your tone. If you are going through financial challenges, it will affect your tone. Just like I was telling somebody, someone came to me to say, sir, I heard him playing at an event. So when, they had stopped playing, he came to the back to meet me and he was saying, sir, I didn't enjoy myself, that I'm just playing nonsense. I said, why are you playing nonsense? He said, he doesn't know. I said, have you eaten? He said, yes. He said no, sorry. He said no. I said, we are going to eat. And immediately this guy ate. As in, his tone came alive. His bass playing came alive. So there are a lot of things that affect us as humans. Don't forget, before you are a bass player, you are first a human. There's nobody who came out of his mother's womb with a bass guitar. You are first a human. So your mind, what affects you, the things that happen around you, would affect how well your tone comes out. And don't forget, your tone is your message. Your tone is your attitude. Just like your attitude is it has to do with your personality. Your tone is the attitude of your playing. So as much as possible, try and approach your songs with the emotions that come with the song. Like now I just played, you deserve the glory and the honor. So we lift our hands in worship as we praise your holy name. Now let me give you another way to spoil the song with respect to tone. I'll go. Now, what I've simply done is I've destroyed the song. I deserve to be arrested now. I've destroyed the song because as much as I'm playing scales, I'm trying to phrase, it just doesn't tally with the emotions of starting a song. Especially when it has to do with a song with a down tempo like this. So I'm basically not passing across the right message. I need you to understand that as a bass player, your priority is in passing across the message. You are a bass player, but the entirety of what you are doing reflects on a theme, a band, and what you are after is one sound. So you can't just pick up the bass and blah 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 blah. And you know, I see this in a lot of programs. The program has started, worship has started, and the bass player wants to play, and he picks up the bass, and the first thing he does is this. He does this. The song is on the key of G, and he does this. Before he goes to G. If I catch you, if I catch you in any program like that, if I catch you, God will have mercy on you. So are you telling me at this point you don't know where your keys are? I mean, even if you're playing a 6 strings, you can relatively find your key if you're not used to a 6 strings bass. And the person just keeps going, and the person just, and you're messing up the entire band. Even if your bass is not tuned, go and get a clip tuner. This is a clip tuner here. This is it right here. Get a clip tuner. That's it at the top, at the tip of the bass. And the clip tuner will help you tune perfectly. So don't mess up people's play again. I'm warning you. If I catch you doing I will come and warn you again. So it has to follow color. And we talked about tone. Then now we'll talk about dynamics. I said I won't talk about tone, but don't worry, I've not even talked about tone. There's the practical aspect. Dynamics. How do you dynamically approach your bass playing? Now, there are a lot of dynamics you can make use of. You have hammer on, you have pull off or pull up, you have vibrato, you have slow. Let me tell you what people are doing now. The most of what people are using practically now is vibrato and slow. Vibrato, slow. Some people call it slow. Some others call it move or shift. They call it shifts. That's what you hear Derek Bennett play. That's what you hear, forgotten his name. K-Bass, yes. That's what you hear K-Bass play. That's what you hear Frank B. Day play. They use a lot of shifts and vibrato now. So you can make use of dynamics to add color to your bass playing. Don't just remember, okay, I want to play a bass line like this. I go, let me think of a bass line. Now, when you heard or what you heard me play, I made use of a lot of dynamics. And an extra dynamic is the part where I added my percussive notes. Percussive bass playing is part of what I'll be talking about on BGM9. I added my percussive notes to make those notes sound, to make my bass playing in its entirety have color. So, for example, you hear Frank Bide play something like, okay, I'm playing from my 6 to my 2 to my 5 and to my 1. So I'm playing on the key of C. 6, 2, 5. So basically, I added color by doing the shifts. Now, how do you do shifts? I did shifts practically. I'm going to do shifts practically for you to see again. So shifting, playing on the key of C, I can shift from my 3 to my 2, my 6 to my 5, and my 2 to my 1. So I have. Now I added a shift. I did my shift and did a vibrato on the octave of my 1. So when I had this, I have. I didn't play to rhythm anyway, but just for you to get the idea. So I just try to mimic what I'll do if I'm shifting. So you shift between notes. You shift. You can do a backward shift. Let me get closer to the camera so you see what I'm doing. Backward shift. You can do a forward shift. So you can practice shifts on different positions of your bass. Don't restrict yourself to just one point. Practice shifts on different points on your bass. You can practically do that by running across octaves. Pick a shift for yourself. Pick a shift. Then you can also make use of vibrato. Vibrato, I love to do that a lot. So if I'm playing the same groove, sorry for that addition. So I did the vibrato to add color. I can also do my percussive bass playing to add color. I won't give you an example. Come on BGM9, you'll get lots and lots and lots of it. To add color to my bass playing. So don't just stick to one point or just stick to one part and say, okay, I'm done with this. It's just bass line, they play. Be dynamic about it. Be very, very dynamic in your approach. So add color by playing dynamically, and you do just fine. Before that, there's something I play on my Makossa lines. I love to play it a lot. I hope I can play it again. So I use that for songs like, yeah, my God is good. I play. So that's another way to dynamically approach. Don't just stick yourself, but don't forget, like I said, it has to go through the transparency test. Is it rhythmical? first of all, sorry, is it consistent? A bass groove has to be consistent. A bass line has to be consistent. You have to be aware of the pulses, the rhythm, the structure, then also color. So as you add color, understand that first of all, it has to be consistent, rhythmical, be aware of the pulses. It also has to be structural in terms of the chord progression or the chords and the chords that go with it, and also the positioning where you play. This matters a lot. These are the reasons why your bass lines don't add up sometimes. So another thing I want to stress is when you are approaching dynamically. Sorry, just to add, when I spoke about tone, I actually played on the higher register as a solo bass player, but the same approach works for when you're playing the bass line. You come cool. Now, I try to approach, I'm assuming I'm playing a soft worship song. I don't know the song. I'm playing it from my spirit. I assumed I'm playing a soft song. Then I could also use this approach. That's the palm muted technique. When the song is running for the first time, I mustn't necessarily strike. So to stop myself from striking too hard, what I simply do is sometimes I use the edge of my palm to bar, then use my thumb to play. You are mighty in your throne, oh God, we worship you. Assuming you are holy, you are holy, you are mighty on your own, oh God, we worship you. Hey, you are mighty. You are holy, you are mighty on your throne. Oh God, we worship you. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. Your name higher. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. Lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. Hey, you are mighty. You are holy. You are mighty on your throne. Oh God, we worship you. Hey, you are mighty. You are righteous. You are holy on your own. Oh God, we worship you. Are you going to clap for me? So, basically, there's a way to approach it. I forgot to mention, when talking about dynamics, you can also use chords to buttress your bass lines as color too. So I could go and we lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. Sorry. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. We lift your name higher. Your name higher. There the vibrato there. So what I'm simply doing is I am approaching dynamically with chords. Now, there was something I was saying before, which is going to be the last point. In every bass guitar line you have, we have the principal and we have the subordinate. The principal and the subordinate. You have to understand, practically speaking, that there is no way the subordinate should be more important than the principal. I repeat, there is no way, or in no way should you make the subordinate more important than the principal. Now, the principal is your baseline. Those are your lines. For example, I have my line as this. I have my line as, let me use a popular example, maybe something I've played before. Let's assume this is my bass line. Now, what I played now are my principal notes. Let me go again. Bass line 1, next progression, and back to 1. So as much as possible, maintain this as your baseline. Now understand that your subordinate is now your color with regards to dynamics. In no way should your color be more important than your principal. So if I play the same bass line, I'm trying to play something simple so it's very easy for you to grab. If I play the bass line as this, and I add color, so you can see at the point I'm adding my subordinates. For example, one subordinate I played was, this is a subordinate. Now, I should not at any point assume this is my bass line. It is just a subordinate to help the principal. So, mathematically speaking, or in terms of calculating your bass lines, as much as possible, keep your subordinates as 5%. Don't forget, we're talking about an intelligent and a calculated bass player. Your subordinates should be 5%. Your baseline should be 95%. That's your principal. So as much as possible, at no point should you remain on your subordinate for more than quarter the bar. Or let me say more than half the bar. That, you know, we are on the baseline already. We are playing this. Now, to me, what I feel at this point, based on my mind, is I have overdone to the extent that it was difficult for me to hit the bass note of a chord I was playing on, or the chord I was playing to. And that was the chord on my fifth. It took too long for me to resolve. So keep your subordinates at 95%. Oh, sorry, pardon me, please. Keep your bass lines at 95%. That's your principal. And your subordinates, which are your color, your dynamics, your feels, your dynamics or your feels, keep them at 5%. That way, you maintain a solid groove and you keep the groove steady, you keep the groove strong, and you add value to the music. Don't forget that whatever instruments you are playing, you are basically adding value to the music. A person without value will hardly gain attention. But if you have value, if you create value, and if you add value, there is no way you won't gain attention. When you listen to most of the great hits, when you listen, first of all, you listen to the entirety of the music. It is when you have finished listening to the piece, it now occurs to you, wow, that bass player played well, oh. That bass player played well. There's a track Kirk Franklin did a live video on recently. I think maybe a few months back. And you know, before people were shouting, the bass player played awesomely, that go hear that track. When I picked the video to watch, first and foremost, I have to be sincere, I didn't hear the bass player. Not because I didn't want to hear the bass player, but my mind was in the entirety of the music first. And immediately I heard the music, I was so impressed. The next thing that came to my mind is, let me listen again and hear what the bass player played. So your passion on the band should be how you will add value to the band. As a bass player, whatever instrument you are playing, your passion and priority should be how your instrument will fit in and represent the message the band is trying to pass across. Your priority is not how to shine. Your priority is not how to be the best. I know in the past, one would have been tempted to make such mistakes in the past, that you want your own instrument to be louder, you want to be heard. And I beg to tell sound engineers to, please don't give your favorite instrument the best volume, because it happens a lot. Sometimes people give their favorite instruments the best volume, the highest volume, so that everybody can hear. And oh, that guy they play. But that shouldn't be our priority. Our priority is one band, one sound. So I hope I have been able to identify the reasons why your bass lines aren't adding up. I want you to work on it. I want to work on your bass lines. You can work on stuff and send to me. My email is right there. Send stuff to me. I want to go through them. Don't forget, I'm your friend and brother. We're in this thing together. Oh. We're in this thing together. We're building a community together. And just imagine, I happen to be into other things. And the first thing that comes to my mind is when I have a gig, okay, and I want to live stream, I try to think, okay, are there bass players that can also do camera work? And that brings me to another topic. You are not made to function as one. God has given us the ability to multitask and also multi-control. You can do so many things. Don't limit yourself. But as much as possible, be a master in whatever art you are doing. Be a master at it. You know, sometimes we talk about God as the God of consuming fire, the God that provides, the God that heals. But we forget to talk about the God who is a master. We forget to talk about the God who is an excellent God. Tell me one miracle that Jesus performed that didn't come to be. Tell me. Or tell me one miracle attempt that Jesus failed at. He was a master in the things of miracle, a master in the things of the Spirit. Talked about God. Oh Lord, our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. If his name can be excellent. The reason why names go far is because of personalities. The reason why Basic T, the name Basic T will go far, because I will go far. If you go far, type amen, I will go far. Type it, I want to see. The reason why we go far will be as a result of my values and my personality. It is not just that a name goes far accidentally. No, it doesn't just happen like that. It goes far because of our personality. It goes far because of our values. It goes far because of our fruits. So when you talk about the excellence of God's name, you cannot separate the excellence of his name from the excellence of his personality. So as much as you strive and thrive in life, understand that whatever it is you are doing, God wants you to be a master at it. God wants you to be excellent at it. Just imagine you're a master and the amount and the quantity and the quality of influence you can command. I happen to go to be into real estate recently, and I get to meet some people who are actually bass players. And I feel, okay, I can actually tell them about this, or meet people in general that as a result of my bass playing, it gives me access to speak to them. It gives me access to explain some things to them. If I were not a bass player, I probably would not have something, a platform or something to leverage on to relate with them. So please work on your art, work on your craft. It's my passion to see that you do well. It's my passion to see that you are an amazing bass player, the best bass player the world will ever produce. And also to see that you're an amazing personality. So please work on your craft. BGM has been a program that kicked off about 3 years ago. We had BGM 1, BGM 2, BGM 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we are going into BGM9. BGM9 starts on the 25th of June. And it's going to be an amazing one. You might look at the topics and say, is it not just 3 topics? I tell you, you will be deceiving yourself if you're looking at it that way. Because there's a lot that I have to teach. A lot. And I want you to be a part of it. I want you to take your bass playing career beyond the surface. Don't just look at it as you being a church bass player. I currently don't play in any church. Currently. But I still practice, I still play, I still have deep love for the instrument because I understand that this is not just an instrument. It's not just a musical instrument, let me put it. It's an instrument for me to reach out to people. It's an instrument for me to cause a change in Nigeria. I can teach people about values. I can teach people about their morals and how to do things right. I can even teach people about excellence. I can project the message of mastery as a result of my playing this instrument. So please work on yourself. BGM9 is going to be amazing. I want you to sign up. Tell as many people as possible to sign up. We're going to be having 2 Zoom sessions. That is going to be interactive, although most of the videos will be pre-recorded, but 2 Zoom sessions where I will follow up on your growth. It's my passion. It's my passion to see you grow. If it's not my passion, we would have stopped BGM a long time ago. But out of BGM, we're already birthing other things. We are birthing the Basic T Masterclass. We'll be teaching about life. I'll be teaching about faith. And also about music. And music as a tool for nation building. Music as a tool to help us live better lives. Music can practically teach you. The next video you'll watch is how music can practically teach you almost anything in life. So thank you so much for being on this program. If you want to sign up for BGM 9, it's just 5,000 naira. Just 5,000 naira. That's basically like 200 naira per day for 25 days. So just imagine what you can use 200 naira for. 200 naira now in Oyo State will buy you a bag of water. Just a bag of water. So imagine getting quality mentorship for 200 naira per day. There will be tips that will be shared, daily tips. Daily tips for those 25 days. We'll be having daily tips that will be shared every day. So please and please subscribe. Tell your friends. Let's create a community together. This is a tool. This is an amazing tool for us to reach out to our world, reach out to our generations. Thank you so much. I deeply love you with all my heart. I remain Oluwatobi Ajiboye, Africa's #1 bass guitar mentor and music coach, also known as Bazzik T. So the next thing you will see on your screen is about consistency, intensity, and consistency. Thank you so much.
Hello, great mind. It's always my joy and pleasure to be in front of your face to speak with you. I mean, there's a way it tortures me. I mean, it makes me feel real good to come before you to speak and share my little knowledge with you again. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the many things that music has taught me. Like I always say, don't just play music. Don't just do music. Let music teach you. I mean, music is a teacher on its own. And if you are open, if your mind is open to learn, you can learn a lot from music itself. And today I'm going to be talking about the concept of intensity and consistency. As much as we live our lives, as much, yes, intensity, as much, and as long as we live our lives, which somehow pictures consistency, we must prepare our minds to pick the lessons that life has prepared for us. We must prepare our minds to pick those lessons. And when we talk about intensity, intensity is simply the degree to which something is done. How much, would I say how much passion is put into it with respect to music. For example, if I am presented with a couple of notes, let's say on my pentatonic, and I am asked, to make use of those notes. And, I go this way. And I go. I mean, I'm playing with so much intensity, but it really isn't making sense. It just seems like I'm playing just a random, set of notes. I mean, playing around my pentatonic, but I'm playing. Yes, I'm so intense into it, but somehow I'm not yet conveying meaning. It is taking quite a while, I guess, for you to understand that I'm trying to play something. But now, that's about intensity. Now, inconsistency. Consistency is simply when you fix this into rhythm and groove. Now, talking about consistency, I'm going to play the 4/0 beat, which is under the Latin time signature. The Latin groove or the Latin style. And consistency is simply grooving. Now, listen to this. That went deep within that groove I was playing. You could find essence. Now it now makes meaning to you. The groove makes meaning to you, and you can actually swing and dance to it. So also the drum beat that was playing here, you could feel the groove, and it was inviting you to dance to the groove. Now, consistency is simply constant repetition of something. Now, for example, you're into agriculture. Consistency says that, okay, if it's time to water your plants, if it's time to water your crop, let me put it that way, or your crops, if there's any word like that, then you have to have a consistent way of approaching it. Now, this is one of the greatest things that music has taught me, that as much as we love intensity, as much as we can put so much activity in the now, what matters is how we are consistent. Because if you want to achieve results, and especially great results in life, you have to be consistent in whatever you do. For example, this groove I just played now made you feel somehow. And the truth about music, like I had a senior player and a mentor said, that was Victor Wooten, he said, people won't remember how many notes you played. They won't remember how many chords you played, but they remember how you made them feel. And how you make them feel is with respect to your consistency. Even in character, your consistency in character is what makes people respect you, is what makes people want to have a relationship with you. I mean, what makes people want to relate with you on one level or the other. So I urge you today, in whatever it is you are doing, be consistent. If you're practicing or doing music, have a consistent practice routine. Have a consistent practice routine. Don't just wake up and just do it anyhow. You have to be consistent with it. It is not how much you do in the now, but how much you're consistent with what you do. I repeat, it is not how much you do in the now, but how much you are consistent in what you do. Have a wonderful day. I remain Oluwatobi Ajiboye, also known as Bazzik, Africa's #1 bass guitar mentor and music coach. God bless you. Don't just do music. Let music teach you. Have a blessed day. Hey, great minds, hope you're doing awesome today. I'm sure you enjoyed that lovely groove. Well, I must tell you that an awesome and a great groove will always sound awesome and retain its awesomeness even when the drums and the percussions are not there. On BGM9, I'll be teaching you a lot about groove, and I'll be teaching you how to sound percussive as a bass player. I'll also be teaching you how to develop a great tone as a bass player. I'll be teaching you how to develop speed and intensity and also accuracy with your notes. So I would love you to join me on the online professional bass guitar mentorship program, the volume 9. It's going to be an awesome time starting on the 25th of June and rounding off on the 20th of July. It's going to be on WhatsApp, and it's just 5,000 naira. I mean 5,000 naira only. That's so affordable, and I am certain that it's going to be an amazing time and you won't remain the bass player you've always been. So join me, you have the details on your screen, and let's go on an amazing ride on the bass. See you there. Kaboom!